Joining us now, the man of the hour, Congressman, 9th District, Virginia, Southwest Virginia, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, welcome.
Good morning.
So good to have you on, Congressman. Okay, lots to talk about. Today. Let's start with the president saying, you know what, we're done negotiating on a new CARES Act. We're $1 trillion apart. Nancy's playing games. We're done. All of a sudden, media melts down and says that everybody's going to be starving in the streets now. What's the deal with this?
Well, I mean, Nancy Pelosi's been playing politics with it since we passed the last update. I forget now when that was, June or July, when we did a little bit of a tweak to it. Everything since then has been politics. It's absolutely outrageous. She's holding up people. I wish Trump had been able to get the message out a little bit better that he's stepping away because she's playing politics, because that's exactly what's happening. That's all they're doing. They passed this bill last week, and it takes us back to the old SALT system. And let me explain that, because that's important in my district, and it's probably important in your listening area over on the eastern part of the state as well. What they want to do is they want to have us pay our federal income taxes and pay a little bit more to the federal government. Then the federal government gives places like New York City and Manhattan and San Francisco a tax cut on local taxes. So the people of Saltville are paying, in part, the local taxes for millionaires who live in San Francisco like Nancy Pelosi. The people in Marion are having to pay for people in Manhattan who may have a condo that overlooks Central Park that costs more money than most of the people in Southwest Virginia will ever see in their entire lifetimes. But we're going to give them a tax break by putting the tax on poor people and people of lesser means. That's what she stuck in there, because they need the fat cat millionaires. She sticks that into a bill about COVID. Give me a break. No wonder the president's walking away, and he should have talked about things like that.
How do you get this out in the fake news media? Because all the fake news media is saying, well, now people are just going to suffer. Trump doesn't care. There's no negotiation. Nancy wants to give everybody money. She wants to do PPP. He walked away. Of course, the fake news legacy media, which is all a bunch of liars, picks up that line, and that's what they run with.
Yep, that's what they run with. And in reality, we had a PPP bill on the floor that was available to go to the floor. And that's why she put together a whole new, package of whatever the name of the bill was, Part 2 or Part 3, is because a number of her members wanted to be able to vote on something before they went home. So she put together something with poison pills in it that she knew was never going to fly with the Republicans or the Senate. And in fairness, I'm not sure even with Democrats the Senate would have passed that thing. It just doesn't make sense for America unless you're a millionaire. It didn't make any sense unless look, we did the numbers back when we passed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. We did the numbers. In Southwest Virginia, in the 9th Congressional District, you would have to have a house in the most expensive taxed area in Southwest Virginia. You would have to have a house, this is in Southwest Virginia, that cost more than $40,000 before you would pay one penny under the Republican version of giving people a little bit of a break on their local taxes. So that's why it's very clear that this thing is for millionaires, because you'd have to have a house worth close to $1 million in most parts of Virginia, maybe not in Northern Virginia, but in the rest of Virginia, you'd have to have a house well over a value of $1 million in order to be benefited by what Nancy Pelosi put into a COVID package just last week. You tell me how that's dealing with COVID. You tell me how that's helping average American families. It's not. She held a bill up for that and a couple other political poison pills she put in there, but she's holding up help for American families in order to help people who have, somewhere between, let's say, 700,000 in some jurisdictions on up houses. If you can afford that kind of a house, you don't need relief from your local taxes at that level. You need some, but you don't need that level. Or maybe you need to go talk to your city council and say, you know what, y'all are taxing the heck out of us, and you all should do something about that, because that's part of the way that New York City and San Francisco and some of these other places are able to have such high local taxes, they would promise you, well, you're not going to pay it all because the federal government's going to give you a tax break. Well, who is paying it? The people in Saltville are paying it. The people in the coal fields of Southwest Virginia are paying it. Mm-hmm. The people who work in the poultry facilities or in the tomato fields on the Eastern Shore, that's who's paying it. Mm-hmm. They're paying it so fat cats in San Francisco and New York City and other rich places don't have to pay as much federal income tax. It's not right. It's wrong. And it really does pull back, in my opinion, it pulls that mask off the Democrat Party that they're for the little guy. They're not for the little guy. They're for the fat cat billionaires. Who's financing them? Fat cat billionaires. Look where the money's coming from. Show me the money. I'll show you who they support and who they're working for in D.C.
So basically, it's a transfer of wealth to get to urban rich people that are the biggest donors to Pelosi's campaigns, right? So they just take that money they saved and they give part of it to her for her campaign, for her caucus, or whatever other causes they're doing, all supporting the Dems. So basically, and that's what she held up PPP for. Am I having deja vu, Morgan Griffith? Did the Democrats were they not screaming for years during Obama for a clean bill or something? Remember they kept saying, we want a clean resolution, we want a clean bill to keep the government open. Am I just dreaming that?
You are not dreaming that. And look, I'm a big proponent, no matter who's in control of what, we need smaller bills that do, a single purpose and are not, 1,000-page bills or 800-page bills, and that get to the point, deal with what they're supposed to deal with, and move on. And both parties have been guilty of that. But in this case, they not only are guilty of throwing a bunch of stuff in there, claiming it does one thing when it does multiple things, including, the tax relief. And it also, cut some money that previously was in her earlier version for police. But the bottom line is that they are just doing this for political reasons, and they threw this whole thing in. So it's even worse than just jamming things up because you got a time crunch. They jammed things up intentionally so they could use it politically. And, I think it probably would have been better if the president had said, we're willing to negotiate as soon as they take the politics out of this thing, but I don't think they're going to do that, which is why we have to wait till after the election.
Well, I wish the president said...
If she came to the table and said we're going to have a clean bill, more power to it.
I mean, I wish the president said that. I wish he said just what you said. Number one, I want a clean bill, and as soon as we get a clean bill on $1,200 checks and PPP, I'm all in. We're going to sign it. Secondly, why didn't he say exactly what you just said? I mean, he certainly isn't at a lack for words these days. So, I mean, all he simply said was, I'm done negotiating with her. And then everybody immediately jumped on him and said he's telling everybody, to go to hell. The spin on this thing is horrible from a PR standpoint when we all know why you just outlined in very detailed terms why he walked away from the table. Why has not that message got out in the White House?
I can't answer that one. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you the answer. I don't know the answer. Part of it, and look, it's frustrating. Sometimes my constituents will say to me after they hear me explain something, say, well, why don't you say that? And I say, I have said that, but the media won't cover it. So
right. Yeah,
that's a part of it. But, that's a part of it. But the president does have the bully pulpit. He needs to make it clear, in my opinion, and I don't think it's too late to say, look, she's been playing party politics. She's not going to stop till after the election. That's why I said this. If she will state publicly that she won't play politics with things like millionaire and billionaire tax cuts, then and throw that in as part of trying to help the American family, then we'll come back to the table. And she might say it, and they can pretend to come back, but they won't. They won't. Mm-hmm. They're not going. They want to use this as a political issue, and that's been clear since August.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are with Congressman, Republican 9th District Morgan Griffith. You got a text here from Barry in Weir's Cave. Barry says, John, again, Morgan, right on the money with the facts. The reason the media is pushing the fake poll numbers is they will need them when Trump wins the election so they can go to the same narrative as they did in 2016 that Trump cheated. It's so obvious. And the congressman is 100% correct on Pelosi. Barry in Weir's Cave. So you got a fan there, Congressman, as you have many, obviously. Scott in Williamsburg, Virginia says the Democrats are always saying they will tax the rich, and when the rich actually pay more because of the limit on salt tax deductions, they squeal like stuck pigs. Thank you for exposing them for the liars they are, Morgan Griffith. So, got some good text on that. Let's get to the vice president's debate tonight, Congressman. What would you like to see Pence do? You served with him. What would you like to see him do?
Well, he is different from the president in that he's very calm and cool and collected, and I expect to see that this evening. I would like to see him be able to push on issues like some of the things that Harris said during her campaign, some of the issues that, that she brought forward, because I think there is a legitimate narrative that she might be running the show fairly quickly if they were to be elected. And I think if he sticks with things like, Medicare for all, which is basically Medicare for none, government-run health care. That's the thing seniors don't understand about Medicare for all, is that if you're going to have Medicare for all, it changes your program drastically, and you're going to end up having to pay more because there's no way to fund the system without having everybody pay more, which means the seniors who are currently on Medicare are going to have to pay more. And that's just the way the math works. And I'm not sure seniors understand that. They think Medicare works great. Well, part of the reason that it works is that doctors and the hospitals take a cut from what they would normally charge an insurance company because it's part of the Medicare program, and they know that that's, a big chunk of money over a long period of time. But each case, they've cut their fees back substantially, and many doctors won't take but so many Medicare patients, and many hospitals try to limit the number of Medicare patients they have for that reason, but they're willing to do some of it. When you suddenly make it Medicare for all, they can't do that anymore. And what you'll end up with is like they have in Great Britain. You'll have one system for the vast majority of people, and then you'll have private pay hospitals that take nothing from the government, and that's where you go. And that's where people go who have money. So again, the rich people are going to end up with a better healthcare system, in my opinion. And I think Pence needs to really push on that because Harris made some interesting comments on that. And I'm sure there's lots of others that his team has ferreted out that she made during the campaign trail when she moved way to the left, although she was mostly already over there, or things that she said as senator. And I think he needs to focus on that so that they can get the message across that this is not your old-style Democrat versus Republican campaign of my youth and your youth. Mm-hmm. This is the far-left socialists have taken control of the Democrat Party, and they've put up two candidates, one who's willing to go along with anything, that would be the Joe Biden, and then Kamala Harris, who's truly way out there on the left, and this is the chance to point that out to the American public.
Well, it's certainly not Kennedy, Johnson, Carter, Clinton, Kerry. It really is none of that. I wouldn't even put Dukakis in this thing. At least Dukakis ran a state. What you're looking at now, the left wing. Basically they want a socialist America where they're the elites and they can tell us what to do. And what's shocking to a lot of people, Congressman, not to get off topic, is you look at these lockdowns and the unparalleled power that these governors have usurped and stripped people of their rights to assemble, to go to church, to open a business, to have a business, to go to school. They've just stripped them. Go out on their boat in Michigan. You couldn't see a neighbor. They just stripped of their rights. And then you look at their approval ratings, and they're through the roof. So they have no incentive to change, right? Whitmer's approval ratings are in the 60s. So it's almost like people said, okay, well, I really enjoy a authority telling me what to do and punishing me if I don't do exactly what they say. That's the kind of government I want to be in. So the Democrats are looking at Michigan and DeWine in Ohio, Cuomo, Virginia, and they're saying, hey, obviously there's a percentage of Americans that want to be told exactly what to do. And they're willing to give up all of their rights and everything in order to be safe or something. That's the real commentary here.
It's absolutely amazing. And when you start to realize this new breed of Democrat Party makes McGovern look conservative. And
Yes.
those of us that are old enough to remember that campaign, the American people rejected that because he was too liberal. Now he looks like a conservative compared to these folks. It's absolutely amazing. But remember this. At the time of the American Revolution, roughly a third supported the revolution, a third said, we don't care, and a third still supported George III and rule from across the ocean, which was a lot further then because you had to come by boat than you can today by plane. But a third still said, yeah, we'll deal with this. It's okay. Notwithstanding the fact that many of the same things were happening then that are happening now. Trampling of rights, not paying attention to individual liberties, all of that stuff was happening. And, a brave group of people, men and women, said, no, we're not dealing with that. We want to do away with it. And hopefully we will have sufficient numbers that will show up at the polls. That is our weapon. And will cast their vote and not pay attention to the fake polls. And I agree, all these polls are just, I don't know what's going to happen on Election Day, but it's not going to be a 19-point win nationally. It's not going to be a landslide either way. But we have to get out and make sure we do our part. But I think all of this is the same, as you said, the same old play. They want to discourage Republican voters and people who are going to go to the polls and vote for Trump but not tell their friends and neighbors. They want to discourage them and have them go, it's not worth it. We're going to lose anyway. That's not the case. We can win. We just have to make sure that everybody that agrees that we've got to do something better than that far left agenda, and that person is Donald Trump and Mike Pence. We've got to make sure they all turn out to the polls. And that's why they're talking about these polls and how it's hopeless. They want to discourage the later voters who tend to be Republican from even showing up.
Morgan Griffith, great summary, great segment. Thank you for being with us. The way you articulated Pelosi's ploy is about as spot on as I've ever heard anybody do it. Very cogent, very succinct, and that's really got to be the message going out there. That's what happened. Hopefully the president and the vice president tonight will do that quickly. But thank you for being with us, sir. It's always an honor to have you.
Glad to be with you.
Congressman Morgan Griffith, 9th District,